Hello everybody and welcome back to History Student Reacts. Today I will be reacting to Napoleon's Revenge, Wagram 1809. This is a continuation of the reactions to Epic History TV's Napoleonic Wars series. So in the last episode we saw Napoleon actually get defeated by the Austrian army. Now it wasn't a necessarily catastrophic defeat, there were pretty high losses, but Napoleon gathered his allies, regrouped, and got ready to fight another day. So I suppose this is going to be his revenge for that defeat. So yeah, I'm excited to get into it. Please check out the Patreon, guys. I've got exclusive content on there, link down below. And anyway, let's jump right into it.
An Epic History TV History March collaboration. In May 1809, the Austrians had defeated Napoleon's army in the bloody Battle of Aspern.
Yep.
His enemies took heart. After years of French military dominance, it seemed the tide was turning at last.
Yeah, and you know, I didn't mention this last time, but this has got to be a pretty big sort of emotional event in the minds of Napoleon's opponents. You know, Napoleon seemed pretty unstoppable, but he has just been defeated. So, you know, his opponents and people across Europe, they've got to be thinking like, wow, okay, you know, we learned from his tactics, we improved our forces, and perhaps if we all do that, we can actually stand a chance. So, you know, it's also a big propaganda victory, I think, for the forces opposing Napoleon. Of course, right now, it's basically just Austria, and then, you know, we've got sort of a lot of guerrilla fighting in Spain, but we don't have a coalition yet. Of course, there's many coalitions throughout the Napoleonic Wars.
3 weeks later, Pope Pius VII excommunicated Napoleon for annexing papal land.
Wow.
Another propaganda coup for his enemies.
Yep.
But in the wake of its victory, Austria hesitated, not sure whether to seek peace or continue the war. While Napoleon responded with a hurricane of activity. He summoned reinforcements to join him near Vienna.
Yeah, never hesitate in the face of Napoleon. You know, we know Napoleon. He acts quickly and decisively. So if you don't make the decision, he's going to make it for you.
The Army of Italy, under his stepson Eugène de Beauharnais, and 11th Corps under Marshal Marmont, who'd together driven Archduke John's Austrian army out of North Italy, as well as Marshal Bernadotte's Saxon 9th Corps. Napoleon's army grew from 90,000 to a massive 164,000 men and 544 guns, to take on Charles's army of 128,000 and 414 guns.
See, now, Charles has gone from a situation where he outnumbered Napoleon to a situation where he's pretty heavily outnumbered in terms of manpower, and guns, for that matter.
6 weeks after his first attempt had ended in defeat, Napoleon ordered his army to cross the river once more. This time, his engineers had built solid bridges across the Danube.
There you go. I mean, hey, Napoleon's enemies can learn from him, but Napoleon can also learn from his mistakes. You know, his enemies aren't the only ones who can learn and improve over time. Napoleon can as well. Clearly, he's realized why that first battle was, you know, a failure. You know, his men weren't able to cross the river properly, the bridges kept getting destroyed, he was in a bad position, and now he's gathered his men together, so now he's not outnumbered, he's outnumbering his opponents, and he has solidified his river crossing. So already, he's in a far, far better position than he was last time.
To ensure there was no repeat of the disasters of Aspern. For the French army, Napoleon declared, the Danube no longer exists. The stage was set for the largest battle yet seen in European history.
Wow. Okay.
If you think our Napoleon series has made you a master,
Gotta
of
watch through
tactics
the
and
ad, you know.
strategy,
They're
put your
making their
skills to
money,
the
we
test
respect
in
that.
Vikings War of Clans, generous sponsors of this video. Napoleon's rules of concentration.
We appreciate
of force and
those who
decisive action
sponsor
will serve
history
you well
content.
as you battle for dominance alongside up to 3 million other users in a single event. This is highly addictive military and resource-based mayhem that caters for many styles of play. Build yourself a medieval Maginot line and await enemy assault. Or play like Napoleon and launch your own Berserker Blitzkrieg before the enemy knows you're coming. Use the link in the video description to download Vikings for free, support the channel, and get a special bonus of 200 gold coins.
Okay.
To Vikings War of Clans.
Shout out to them, shout out to the sponsors, etc., etc. You know, we react to the video. I feel it responsible to react to the sponsor as well, you know? Well, he's got jokes. He's got humor, I see.
On the evening of the 4th of July, in heavy rain, the French began crossing from the island of Lobau, not towards the devastated villages of Aspern and Essling, but east towards Groß-Enzersdorf, which was soon ablaze from French shells. Archduke Charles had left only a small advance guard to delay the French.
Yeah. God, imagine if you lived in one of these villages. Yikes. Hopefully you got out of there alive. Even if you did, your home is probably destroyed and your village has been burned down. You know, this sort of situation is very reminiscent, I think at least, of like the 30 Years' War. You know, armies marching back and forth across Europe, particularly the German lands, and destroying towns multiple times over. Yeah, it's just not a good situation for those who actually live there.
By dawn, General Massena's 4th Corps and Oudinot's 2nd Corps were driving those troops back, winning space for the French army to deploy.
Nice.
At 1 p.m., Napoleon was ready to begin his advance across 6 miles of flat cornfields towards the main Austrian position, an escarpment known as the Wagram, 100 meters behind the Russbach stream. As General Lasalle's light cavalry and Massena's 4th Corps swung left to guard the flank, Oudinot's 2nd Corps and Davout's 3rd Corps advanced towards the Wagram. Bernadotte's Saxon Corps and Eugene's Army of Italy filled the center. At 6 p.m., unsure of the enemy's strength, Napoleon ordered a full-scale assault against the Wagram Plateau.
Wow.
But his troops met determined Austrian resistance along the line. By dusk, the Saxon 9th Corps had pushed into the village of Deutsch Wagram. The Saxon infantry wore white uniforms, like the Austrians, and as darkness fell, were mistaken for the enemy and fired on by friendly units.
Oh, wow.
The Saxons panicked.
Yeah, that's gotta be definitely a little bit confusing.
And fled with heavy losses.
Wow, that's rough.
Napoleon's attempt at a quick breakthrough had failed.
As we saw last time, the Austrian forces they've been trained up, they've improved, they're no slouches. You know, I mean, considering this is called Napoleon's Revenge, I suspect they're gonna lose this battle, but, you know, as they're showing, it's far more of an even playing field than it was at Austerlitz. Napoleon is no longer dominating, he's facing some forces which are actually fairly formidable.
That night, both armies slept in the open, while Charles and Napoleon planned their next moves.
Day 2. Here we go.
On the second day, Napoleon planned for Davout's 3rd Corps to lead the attack, rolling up the Austrian flank, while his other corps pinned down the enemy with local attacks. But to the Emperor's fury, he learned that overnight, without orders, Marshal Bernadotte had withdrawn his battered Saxons.
What is he doing?
Which the Austrians now occupied.
Oh my goodness.
Was a crucial strongpoint in the center of the battlefield. Napoleon gave orders for its immediate recapture. but the French and Saxon attack failed, with heavy losses.
Okay, so that is a bad way to start the day if you're Napoleon. Bernadotte is just, he's just made the decision to pull back. Like, what? Whoa. Maybe some of you can explain that to me. What was the point of that? Why exactly did that happen?
Austrians had their own problems. Archduke Charles, knowing he faced a superior enemy, had decided his only chance of victory lay in an all-out dawn attack. He was relying on his brother, Archduke John, reaching him with 13,000 reinforcements, in time to support the attack on the left. But by dawn, there was still no sign of him.
Uh-oh.
What's more, as 4th Corps began its assault on Grosshofen, on time, 3rd Corps, which had received its orders late, was still getting into position, holding up the entire Austrian right wing. Charles had to tell 4th Corps to abort its unsupported attack until the other corps were ready. With the Austrians paralyzed by delays, at 10 AM, Davout began his attack. A fierce infantry battle erupted in the village of Markgraf Neusiedl, while in the fields, dragoons and hussars fought a giant whirling cavalry battle as each side tried to outflank the other. Davout's corps took the village.
Hey, you can always count on Davout to do a good job. You need something done, send him in there.
But they couldn't stop the Austrians withdrawing to a strong new position on the Wagram escarpment. Meanwhile, a serious threat had developed to Napoleon's left flank and rear. Klenau's 6th Corps had driven back the outnumbered French, with some units advancing as far as Essling, dangerously close to Napoleon's vital river crossings.
Oh no.
Napoleon urgently needed to reinforce his left flank, but he was also determined to hold back his reserves for a decisive attack. So he ordered Massena's 4th Corps to march across the battlefield and reinforce the left. A huge redeployment like this, right in front of the enemy, was high risk. So Marshal Bessieres was ordered to lead a cavalry attack straight against the enemy center.
Bold.
Casualties were high. Even Marshal Bessieres had his horse killed under him, to the alarm of his men. But the enemy was kept busy, while 4th Corps completed its redeployment and forced Klenau's corps to fall back.
Wow. Well, he made it a little bit past 30.
Napoleon now assembled a grand battery of more than 80 cannon in the center of the battlefield. This was one of Napoleon's trademark tactics, the concentration of artillery to blast the enemy line and pick.
Hey, I mean, he was an artillery commander. That's where he started from, so sort of showing the expertise of his roots, I suppose.
Pave the way for a decisive French attack. The Grand Battery fired an estimated 15,000 rounds,
wow,
setting light to the cornfields. Around 1 PM, Napoleon ordered a general attack. As Davout continued to batter at the enemy flank, 4th Corps would advance on the left, 2nd Corps on the right, while in the center, General MacDonald would lead forward 8,000 men of the Army of Italy, formed up in a giant three-sided square to secure his flanks. But despite the terrible French cannonade, Austrian 3rd Corps and Grenadiers of the Reserve met the French advance with torrential fire.
Wow.
MacDonald's giant square was cut to pieces, its men mowed down en masse by cannon fire, and the attack stalled.
Brutal.
But the Austrian army, battered by relentless French attacks, was near breaking point.
Yeah, I mean, this is absolutely brutal for both sides. The Austrians are being relentlessly pushed and attacked. And just the same, they're fighting back equally hard against the French, who are being torn to shreds as they advance. I mean, this is absolutely brutal warfare.
Every part of the line was under pressure from the French. Archduke Charles, determined above all to keep his army intact, ordered a retreat. The Austrian withdrawal was disciplined and well executed.
If they successfully retreat, probably wise. I mean, you could try to hold the position, but if you're going to lose your entire army, probably a good move to retreat and keep your army intact.
Napoleon had his victory. But his army was also so shattered by fatigue and heavy losses, it was unable to launch any effective pursuit.
Wow. I mean, it's a bit of a reverse of last time at Aspern. You know, the Austrians defeated the French. The French retreated, but the Austrians were, you know, too tired and too wounded and, you know, to pursue the French. So we've got that a little bit flipped. You know, the Austrians manage a retreat. They've been defeated, but the French army is too shattered, as they said, to actually pursue them. Okay, well, that's good, because, you know, one of the mistakes Napoleon made last time was underestimating the Austrians, who had recently sort of trained up and improved their forces. As we can see from both his actions during this battle and this statement, you know, he's learning not to underestimate them so much at this point.
The Battle of Wagram was a brutal slugging match, the biggest and bloodiest battle yet seen in European history.
Wow.
French victory came at unprecedented cost. An
Oh
estimated
my God.
37,500 casualties against 41,500 Austrian.
Yeah, that's crazy.
4 days later, French troops caught up with the retreating Austrians at Znaim. As the fighting escalated, Charles knew he could not withstand the French a second time and asked for a ceasefire. But he had not consulted his older brother, Emperor Francis, who was furious when he heard the news.
Uh-oh.
Not least because long-awaited British support was finally on the way. 3 weeks after the Battle of Znaim, the largest amphibious force Britain had ever assembled, 35 ships of the line and 39,000 troops, landed at Walcheren Island on the Scheldt estuary.
Wow.
Its aim was to destroy French shipping and naval stores. But following the successful bombardment and capture of Vlissingen, British commanders let the initiative slip from their grasp. Their force was bottled up by French troops on the marshy Dutch coast, where it was decimated by fever and dysentery. About 4,000 died. Many more became permanent invalids.
Yikes.
The survivors were evacuated back to England in December.
Yeah, that's pretty brutal.
Emperor Francis, informed of the British debacle and persuaded by his generals that Austria couldn't fight on, made peace with Napoleon. In October, Austria signed the Treaty of Schönbrunn, giving up territory to the French Empire, Bavaria, Saxony, the Duchy of Warsaw, and Russia.
Oh my goodness.
In total, the Austrian Empire was stripped of 3.5 million subjects, forced to pay an indemnity, limit its army to 150,000 men, and join Napoleon's continental system.
Jeez,
which meant ending
brutal.
all trade with British ships and merchants. Archduke Charles, meanwhile, one of Napoleon's more skilled opponents, had fallen out so bitterly with his brother, Emperor Francis, that he never held active command again.
Oh man.
Napoleon had won another crushing victory.
Yeah.
But there were worrying signs for the French Emperor. His enemies were learning, while he would increasingly have to rely on young conscripts to fill the gaps left by veterans killed or wounded on campaign. Few could have guessed in 1809, but Napoleon had just fought his last victorious campaign.
Wow. Well, we've got a couple more years to go.
You can now support.
I mean, that was a great video. As we've seen, another victory from Napoleon, a victorious campaign, but, you know, as Epic History TV mentioned, This one was more worrying than the others. You know, Napoleon really had to struggle to win this one. There were massive losses in manpower. And of course, that's sort of like, you know, that's going to continue to get worse and worse. I mean, you lose manpower because you had to struggle more for this one, where you're going to have to replace those lost men with fresh conscripts, which is going to make your army weaker and more likely to lose in the future. So, you know, a successful campaign from Napoleon, and as you can see, that peace was pretty harsh on Austria. They lost a lot of territory, but, you know, Napoleon is not looking as strong as he once did. Still master of Europe, of course, but, you know, he's struggling far more than he used to, you know, a couple of years ago. Though he's still got a couple more years to go. So yeah, that was a great video. If you guys enjoyed this reaction, please leave a like, subscribe, and check out the Patreon. You know, I hope you guys will stick around, watch the rest of the series. I hope you guys are having a good day, and I will see you guys during the next reaction. Goodbye.